Hi, everybody. I am so excited because I have a very special guest here today, Alyssa Dineen from Style My Profile. And if anybody is going through a divorce, coming out on the other side, we all know that dating is something that we have to take a great big deep breath before we just dive in.
Yes, that is so
So,
true. Thank you. Thanks for
so I
having me.
wanted we wanted to have Alyssa here. I wanted to have Alyssa here today to talk about, well, first of all, you started off as a stylist, is that right?
Yeah, so I've been a stylist for 22 years and I started working with private clients long before my divorce, like about 14 years ago. And when I got divorced at age 41, I quickly realized that I had to get online. I was not going to be set up with all these amazing people like I thought like I thought I might
Like when we
be.
were 26, right?
Yeah,
It was a whole
exactly.
different world back then,
Or
though.
just meet people out in the real
Right,
world.
right.
So that didn't happen, and so I had to go online, and it was completely, I mean, it was just so foreign and daunting, and, it took me a little while to get used to being online, and it took me a while to figure out what photos to use and what to wear on a first date and what to write in my bio. And I kept thinking, here I am coming from this fashion and photography and art directing background, and I still had a learning curve. So I was just thinking, and then I would see all these profiles of people that could really use some help in all those areas. And I kept thinking, God, I wish I could, style these men who are newly divorced and getting back out there. Anyway, cut to a couple of years later, a lot of dates, and I met my partner online, and he and I were talking about what I do and how so many divorced men like himself too could use a style makeover and also just help with their profile. And so we Googled it and it didn't exist at the time, like somebody that could help you, kind of revamp your wardrobe, revamp your look, really, help you to feel great getting out there, help you like choose the right photos, help you pick the right words to describe yourself. There was not like a holistic way to go about it. You could hire individual people, obviously, to write your bio or take your pictures or, hire a stylist. But just coming from, online dating myself, I, knew exactly what people were looking for.
So did you do you work with men and women or just with men?
I did know so it started off thinking I'm going to, work with all these divorced men. But it's interesting. It really quickly, I realized that I was getting way more women clients than men, for good or for bad. When I say that, it means that I wish more men would think to come to ask
Well,
for
I
help.
mean, think about it. Like you are a stylist by profession, and you needed to take some time to figure out exactly how to tweak your own
Yeah.
profile. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering if you can share. I know last time we talked on Instagram Live, we talked about like what not to do a lot. Maybe you can share a couple of like your best tips of what people can do to perfectly style their profile.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of, depending on if you're talking about photos or your written bio, but for photos, you really should, kind of tell a story about yourself. You should have a photo of a headshot basically of yourself, not obviously looking like a headshot, but something that people can see a very clear picture of you without sunglasses on, with no hat. You should have a photo of you, doing something social, with a friend, even just going out to dinner or going for a walk or whatever that may be. Doing something that like a hobby or an activity or a sport that you really love.
And I think you said like don't post a picture of yourself with a big fish if you're not actually someone who goes
Yes,
fishing.
exactly,
Right?
exactly.
If you actually
Yes,
fish, you can post a picture of yourself with the fish. But
yes.
I remember a hot tip
Avoid
from Alyssa Dineen, don't put yourself on a boat if you hate boating.
Right, exactly. Or so many men posting or putting pictures up that of them surfing for the very first time
Right.
ever, at age 45, and clearly not knowing what they were doing and putting these pictures up on their profile. So really, yeah, something that you're actually interested in, you actually have done, many times that you can talk about. And then it always, 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 you have to have a full length picture. And a lot of people, think of that as being, superficial or something like that. But it really, a lot of people will not even swipe right or, message or match with you if they don't see a whole clear picture of, of what you look like.
Uh-huh. And it's almost like a waste of your time to like be set up with someone who's just gonna discount
Yeah,
you because you're not quite what they're looking for, right? What about like
absolutely.
how old should the pictures be that you're posting? Like, what's the rule of thumb?
Well, right now it's tricky because of the pandemic. Nobody has really that many, because no
Any
one's seeing
pictures?
anybody.
I
A
know,
lot
it's
of
true.
people
My
don't
mom was always like, stop taking pictures. I don't want you posting anything. I'm like, all right, all right. But I
Yeah.
have nothing else going on, right?
Right, right, right. Yeah, so it's tricky because people don't really have a lot of current photos. So I'm encouraging people to like grab a friend or a family member that they're, in a pod with or something, like just have them take a few photos of you doing something.
But normally, like if it like a
Better.
headshot, how old should
Yeah,
you
I mean, normally I say not more, definitely not more than 2 years, but what I guess bringing that up, I'm being a little more like, okay, if you don't have any, if you don't have enough photos of yourself in the last 2 years, that's tricky because
right?
of the pandemic. So I'm stretching it a little bit, but really it shouldn't, and definitely if you've changed drastically, that's also a big, flag, you really, even if it is a recent picture, but you've completely changed your hair or you let yourself go gray or, whatever it is, you should really keep them updated because it's a waste of your own time more than anything.
And also, like if you have some beautiful headshot that you just love that's 5 years old and still looks just like you and you're, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Absolutely.
probably okay. It just, especially
Absolutely.
when you're younger, every 2 years makes a bigger difference. I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe because I'm getting older, I'm like, oh, I look exactly the same as I did 5 years ago.
No,
But
and definitely, I mean, when I say 2 years, that is, it's flexible and kind of, it really is, you really have to monitor yourself. Like, do I actually still look like that?
right,
A lot of people think they still look the
right,
same as they did. I recently had
right.
a client who he was on one of the apps where you have like 20 pictures, and he had essentially like pictures from the last 15 years or so. And he was like, well, I really haven't changed that much. And I was like, well, enough so that like 15 years ago, like he really, it's not like he
15
lost
years a
any
long
weight or
time. Right.
it wasn't like he'd changed his appearance so much. His haircut was the
No,
same, his facial
but
hair
we
was,
age.
but yeah. And so I was really like trying to delicately tell him, you still need to have photos that are, in the last few years at least. 5, okay. If you still look the same, 5 is okay.
What about a bio? Like, what kind of things do people what like what should people write about? What I hate the word should, but what's a good thing that people are looking for? Maybe give me like a couple of do's and a couple of don'ts. I think people would really benefit a lot.
Yeah, well, so the major issue with bios is that you start to see the same things over and over again. You see the same
Oh,
types of descriptions of yourself, recently divorced, I'm new to this whole online dating thing. I mean, so many people say that. I mean, tons of people are guilty of that. Tons of people use the same adjectives, which are loyal, kind, and funny. Everybody uses those, so don't use those in your bio. The idea is to really get people's attention. You really want to, they're swiping through so many different photos, no matter what app you're on or dating site, you're looking through tons of photos and bios, and you really need something that's going to stand out from the rest.
I love that, loyal, kind, and funny. You're like, oh, don't say that. It's like when I start doing a mediation, I always know both people say they want to be fair. And I know that what they each think is fair is different. You start to see themes,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
So,
And I mean, it's essentially, it's just like watered down the meaning of those words if everybody's saying I'm loyal, kind, and funny,
and what about if you think you're weird, but not so weird? Like, what would you tell somebody to write?
You could say quirky.
It's
Or I
always nicer.
I have some quirks, or, but a lot of people even say, like, if you're the same kind of weird as me, that kind of thing,
Yeah, and if you like to like go out for restaurants, or if you like to cook, or what if you like to eat homemade food but you don't like to cook it?
Yeah. If that's how you want to
No, I
describe it.
mean, like, I'm just thinking myself, like, my husband's an amazing cook and I love that he makes recipes. But like, if I were dating, I would love to meet another guy who loved to cook, can
Right,
I
right,
put that,
yeah,
can I put that, or I probably
yeah.
shouldn't put that?
Well, you could put that. I mean, you might
Maybe
not get
not.
as many hits. There's mostly men that
I
are
better just stay
cooking.
pat as long as I
Yeah.
can, right?
You can always order in a lot.
That's true. That's a good
For
point.
the right person, you can order in.
So, if somebody wanted to work with you, first of all, do they have to live in the metropolitan New York area, or do you work virtually as well?
No, absolutely not. In fact, I've completely, um, pivoted my whole business actually to be more online and over Zoom. And I do group workshops now, and I have a webinar series that you can purchase online where it's already pre-recorded videos explaining kind of each step and what to do and what not to do with photos and your bio and what to wear on your first date and what to do when you're ghosted, and all the things.
And if
So
somebody were to
basics.
if somebody were to buy your whole, sorry to cut you off, if
No,
somebody
that's
were to buy your whole basic program, but they're just a little bit insecure about like if they're doing what you say, do you offer something where they can have a consultation with you, or not
Oh yeah,
really?
no, I absolutely still work with people one-on-one, and I can do that remotely now. Even, I've even helped people do photo shoots over Zoom, and, art directed from a distance. So pretty much everything I can style people now remotely, because we can do a try-on session over Zoom, and I do
It's
all the
incredible, right?
shipping online. Yeah, I mean, I still am meeting people, very few people, depending on the situation, if we can meet outside or if I'm shopping for them and then dropping it off. I am still meeting with people one-on-one for sure,
Mhm.
but I am doing a lot more group workshops that makes it more accessible for for more people.
So, I know that you're known to have a mindful approach to dating online. Can you just take a minute and tell us a little bit about quite what that means?
Yeah, so I mean, so many people go into online dating with, and I did it too. So you think, oh, this is not really for me. I'm just doing this reluctantly. I'm going to put this a couple of pictures up and whatever, write something about myself and just see what happens. You really have to be proactive in online dating. And I did realize that within a few months, but I was just sort of passive about it too. And I call it like the online dating dabbler, where you're kind of like, you check
I was
it.
going to ask you your story, but I didn't want to get too personal. But that's really interesting. Like when you first started, you sort of, I could picture that. Like, well, if somebody hits, they
Yeah,
hit.
if
Of
somebody,
course,
messages me, that's great, but I know, and I sat there and swiped on the swiping apps and everything, and I'd message a little bit, but I would never ask somebody out. I would always wait for them to ask me out, which is, I encourage everybody now, just make the first move. Nobody, it's not how, especially like with women my age and older, you think that, in a hetero relationship, that the man should ask you out. It's just not the case anymore.
so
It
the
really,
rules of, do you remember the rules of marriage or something like that? Do you know what I'm talking about? That book was
the,
really popular in the
yes, yeah,
90s,
yeah.
right? Now I'm
No,
really
I
dating
mean,
myself.
the thing is,
That's not a thing anymore? You don't have
well,
to like pretend you're busy?
well, you can do that, once you kind of get into the initial dating stage, sure, but I think the problem is that so many people are nervous to make the first move. And I work with tons of men and women, so I know this from both sides. There's so many men that just, they will message and message and message and message, and they are trying to work up the nerve, or maybe they think that the woman's not entirely interested or whatever it is. They're not asking them out. And so, I think more women are getting to the point where they realize that they can just make the first move.
So let me ask you one more question. You're making me think of, so what about paying on a date? Like, what do you think the rules are today? I know
That
that might be a little bit beyond style your profile, but I'm still
No,
very
no, no,
curious.
actually, well, it's funny because I have book coming out in the fall about online dating and
Oh,
kind of
I can't wait for that one.
the ins and outs and my experience, but with some prescriptive advice and actual real life advice. But one of the things I talk about is that the idea of who pays is still, it can be so stressful in this dating. I think younger generations, it's a different mindset, and I've heard from my clients, they must always split it at first. But for my generation and older generations, it's different. There's this definite like social construct that was, started hundreds of years ago, basically.
Yeah, I mean, like, is a woman supposed to reach for their wallet, but then, like, if the guy lets them pay, then you don't go on another date,
Well,
right? Like, that was the rules when I was dating,
I have
even
a
though
funny story about it. So when I was first dating, I was like, oh, I'm gonna, offer to pay every time. So I did. And then I was at a party back when people still went to parties. And I met it was a friend of a friend. She was a single woman like me, divorced also. And she was like, you offer to pay, don't ever offer to pay, that's like, basically she thought it was like some like code of being a divorced woman. She's like, you're a single mom, you should never have to pay. If they can't pay for you, then they're not, basically don't even reach for your wallet. And I was thinking, oh my god, I've really screwed this up. Like, maybe I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm offending people, I don't know. So I took her advice. And I did it a couple times, and it just always felt weird to me. I was
I
like,
know it felt weird to me.
it's not me. I was like, I
Right.
have to offer no matter what. And, I would say 90% of the time, men decline your offer. But
And does it
anyway,
matter what the like, who earns more, who's paying, the rules, or
well, I think obviously on the first date, you're not, so
thinking
that might
about
not be so clear. But I think, some ways that you can avoid that is to either, clarify it before you even meet the person, or get to the place first. And like, if you're meeting for always on a first date, you never meet for dinner, because then you're really
that?
locked in. Always meet for coffee or tea or a drink. So you can always get there first, pay for your drink or your coffee, and
Oh,
so that
that's great.
takes that whole uncomfortable thing out of the mix.
I love
It's
that. That totally takes the stress out. You always have such great advice. I was a bridesmaid 15 times. I love the whole
all
dating thing.
right.
Yeah, I just absolutely love it. So if anybody wants to find you, how do they do that? stylemyprofile.nyc.com, is that right?
NYC.com. Yes. Yep.
Okay. And I will include links in the show notes, so you can just take a look there. And it's been such a pleasure to have
Thank
you for this
you,
quick chat, Alyssa. I
Gabrielle.
always love talking to you. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to Divorce Talk with Gabrielle. And I will see you again soon. Take care.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.